Hey everybody, my name is Shakisha Glass, and this is Talk, Feel, Heal, a space for Baltimore to talk about the things we go through and find ways to get through. This is brought to you by the 988 Helpline in Central Maryland. Today we are talking about tackling the we don't talk about the culture. That culture where it's like our business is our business and what happens in the house stays in the house, that kind of culture. So I'm excited to be able to discuss some of the mental challenges that we face and how we can be more comfortable talking about them. I'm also excited to meet our guests today. We have Ariel Davis with Baltimore Safe Haven and Neville Hodge from PLC Adolescent Clubhouse. So welcome to the show. Can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what exactly do you do with the community?
Sure, go ahead. Well, like she said, my name is Ariel Davis. I am the harm reduction manager at Baltimore Safe Haven. For the community, I do the all the HIV testing
Okay.
for my job. STD, STIs. I refer people to recovery. I help people out in the community, giving them clean drug paraphernalia, making sure they're not out there catching Hep C, HIV, teaching them about PrEP and PEP, and letting them know that it's not a dirty word.
Okay.
Also, I'm a very great advocate for mental health.
Thank you. No, I was just thinking you could continue if you had more, but that one point I wanted to add a little
I
extra
also run our
appreciation.
drop-in center also where those like clients can come in, they can take showers, they can
Mm-hmm.
eat, they can do whatever they can talk to case management, they can do whatever they need to do
Yeah.
to get their minds right, and they can come and digress from off the street. I run the outreach team, which is daytime and nighttime, and also our outreach team inside of DC because we have a DC safe haven also.
Wow.
So the daytime and nighttime outreach team, the nighttime go out on Fridays and Saturdays, and they travel within the very high populated drug community
Okay.
and prostitution areas.
Okay.
So we get them condoms, clean food, like
Okay.
as I say, clean tools,
Okay.
Narcan. We teach them how to do.
Yeah,
We,
yeah.
we we definitely teach them how to use
Thank
Narcan
God.
and how to save a life.
Yeah.
And that's just me.
I love that. I'm over here like, what else? What else? What else? What else? What
Right,
else?
that's right.
And real quick, for anyone who doesn't know what Baltimore Safe Haven is, can you just maybe a one-liner on what Baltimore Safe Haven is and who it
Baltimore
serves?
Safe Haven is LGBTQ safe haven.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a safe haven.
Yeah, and we want to make sure we know
Yes.
because I don't want to just
And
be
we opened
throwing.
a new building on Friday.
Come on,
This
new
Friday the 10th. So
building.
Congratulations.
yeah, we're over on
Congrats.
Madison and Collington, 814 North Collington.
Okay.
We own a big building. Shout
Okay.
out to Aya Damus, who is
Come
our
on, Aya.
CEO
Yes.
and founder.
Yes.
That's my girl.
Yes. And I'm familiar with Aya. We'll talk about that later.
Yes.
Okay, Neville.
Yes. Neville Hodge, Program Director for the Adolescent Clubhouse. We are at risk program for adolescents between the ages of 12 and 17. Harm reduction. We work with the entire Baltimore City population.
Mhm.
One of the unique things about the Adolescent Clubhouse, it's exactly what it sounds like. We try to provide a safe haven for our adolescents to come to, not only for life skills, but be able to learn some culinary arts,
Yeah.
music therapy, as well as some tutorial support with homework, etc. We also have the mental health division where we do referrals, and the SUD part of the program where we support with substance abuse, and we also work with the parents as well for
Wow.
parent support group as well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I really like that name, Adolescent Clubhouse. It's like you're a youth and
Absolutely.
you're adult becoming an adult, but it's like, yeah, you understand me. I
Absolutely.
love that. I love that. So when we get to talking about emotional and mental health and this type of stuff, and you think about Baltimore City specific and you think about the areas that you serve, what specifically comes to mind? Like, and I'm gonna start with you.
um, the kids who were misguided,
Mm,
and
yes.
meaning people who were misguided, who was turned away, who was shunned, especially coming from the LGBTQ community.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, a lot of the people deal with mental health
Yeah.
very strong.
Yeah.
Mental health is very, very strong. Like mental health is very strong in the United States. I think it's about 95% of the United States now is dealing with mental health.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that because the suicide rate is up,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially within the community that I serve
Yeah.
as an advocate. The people have been shunned away from their parents. Oh, they're coming out as gay. They're coming out as lesbian. But the worst part is they come out as being trans, and the
Mm-hmm.
parents are shutting them out and throwing them to the wolves. And you wonder why they're coming out with all type of diseases now
Yeah.
because they have no one to depend on, so they're dependent on their body.
Yeah.
They're dependent on their mind, and their mind is turned into drugs.
Yeah.
And drugs are taking over the world, actually,
Yeah.
because when they're dealing with certain drugs, it's I see it.
Yeah.
And I try to get people in like different recovery programs, but sometimes if they don't want it, it won't happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They have to want it.
Yep.
So when they don't want it, and you're trying to force them into it, that's all you're going to do is put more of a burden on them. So it's like now their mental is messed up. No, like so not only they're dealing with the mental, they're dealing with like the drug that's taking over their head.
Yep.
They're dealing with poverty.
Yeah.
Like they had nowhere to go. They had nothing to eat. So now they're out there, they're doing shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and you're still looking at them like, oh, well, you shouldn't have been this, you shouldn't have been
Yeah.
that. How are you going to shun me
Yeah.
from being who I am? And now
Yeah.
I'm dealing with all these problems and
Yeah.
issues, and now you have a problem with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thank you for just acknowledging, because a lot of times it, especially in the LGBTQ community, it does start with rejection. It starts with being rejected from society, being rejected from home, and then it just kind of trickles. And rejection is not something you can control.
It's not.
That's other people.
No matter what type of rejection it is.
And no matter what kind of rejection it is. So it's only, it's navigating and dealing with it. And it sounds like the work you're doing is helping people to navigate that from the beginning all the way through, and all the levels I can imagine in the middle. My goodness.
But it's something that I love to do, and what I love.
Oh, I could tell.
So it's like I'm very passionate about what I do.
Yeah.
Harm reduction is what I do.
Yeah.
And dealing with harm reduction, I tell people, I say, not only harm reduction is not only drugs. Harm reduction is preventing domestic violence. Harm reduction is preventing abortions.
Yeah.
All this is part of harm reduction.
Yeah.
Preventing people from committing suicide.
Yeah.
Trying to give them the hotlines to call. Trying to talk to them as an advocate. Trying to be a spiritual counselor to them.
Yeah.
Because I'm also a minister also.
Come on,
So
minister.
You're trying to talk to them like, hey, God is real. God is real. However we look at it, God is still real. No matter what we're going through in the world today, God is still real, because God has the last say so.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that you saying that so much. So my my aunt was trans woman, saying was because she's no longer with us.
Okay.
And
My condolences.
thank you. And Baltimore Safe Haven played a huge role in just advocating for her life and her legacy, and that meant a lot to me. So I can firsthand say that the work that you do, y'all are doing, it means something, it matters. But it also, that experience allowed me to see how things can trickle, how that rejection can turn into drug use, drug abuse, how it can turn into homelessness, how it can turn into all kinds of stuff. And so, and unfortunately, life ended before it could get better.
Right.
But I just want to personally thank you for the work that you're doing, because it matters, and not just to the individual, but everyone attached and tied to that individual. So Neville, I'm gonna ask you the same question in your field, and thank you again, Ariel. When it comes to teens and adolescents, what are some of the biggest struggles? What are you seeing? What are the things?
For me, a lot, and just to piggyback off of Ariel, a lot of resources.
Yeah.
Resources, lack of resources, trauma. I deal with a lot of young Black males today, and it's just generations of trauma.
Yes.
So ideally, for a lot of them, it's just trying to navigate through life, and deal with the trauma and learn how to process the trauma at the same time, which is one of the major challenges. Being able to be vulnerable, being able to articulate how you're feeling amongst men, even.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it becomes a pushback for us when we're engaging a lot of the young men, because they tend to have that trauma, that stigma of I can't share, if I share I'm weak, things of that sort. So a lot of times for us, it is a process of just teaching them how to not only deal with the trauma, but to articulate how they're feeling about the trauma, so we can then kind of get to the core of the issue. But a lot of the resources play a major role as well.
Yeah.
Housing, employment, even down to food. A lot of our young people live in food deserts. So ideally, getting healthy food is a primary resource for a lot of us to survive. But of course, they lack some of those resources.
Yep.
So it's a plenty of different challenges that we can sit here and list over and over. But the trauma in itself is my major component when it comes to just dealing with my young folks.
I really appreciate that. As a child, survivor of childhood trauma, and a advocate against children. I mean, for children in any kind of trauma, anything. Like I don't play about my kids, your kids, all the babies. I love them.
Absolutely.
I'm also a poet, and so I use writing, to express and to heal and to navigate. What are some things that you all suggest in your avenues to help people outside of the therapy, outside of the resources? If all I got is me right now in this room, is there anything that you've learned or you've been able to, any gems you've been able to kind of give out to help navigate people as they are dealing with their trauma?
For me, it's a lot of coping skills.
Okay. Yeah.
Even journaling.
Yeah.
One of the things that we try to introduce our young folks to, being able to write down how you're feeling in the moment and being able to go back and, just process those thoughts.
Yeah.
So I think, again, the biggest piece, again, is having the support from your family members, your parents, and things of that sort. Even a big brother, a mentor, finding that outlet that allows for you to be yourself. A lot of times it's just going outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like the clubhouse in itself is somewhere you can come to and be comfortable in who you are.
Yeah.
And kind of let your hair down. So I think a lot of times, again, I'll always go back to resources when you're having those challenges, just being able to tap into something that allows for you to kind of process your emotions.
Yeah, I like that. Anything you like to add?
Yeah, I like to piggyback off of what he was saying. Just finding a great coping skill. Find something that you like to do.
Yeah.
Maybe it's singing. Maybe it's dancing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's marching in the marching band. Maybe it's voguing. Because I know a lot of kids within the ballroom scene that goes through a lot of trauma and they take it out on the floor.
Yeah.
And that's why the underground scene is very popular nowadays. A lot of people go for the underground scene. And a lot of times they don't trust.
Yeah.
So trust is a big thing with, especially with therapists and doctors. A lot of times you can look at them and say, okay, you might have a degree, but do you have the stability to really understand what I'm doing? Because just because you have a degree behind your name, it doesn't mean you really understand what I'm doing.
Me, yeah.
Anybody can go to school and learn and graduate with it. So can you really, really teach me how to cope? Teach me how to be who I am. Teach me and not judge me.
And not judge me.
And not judge me.
And not try to make me who you want me to be.
Exactly, because I am who I am. Because Eminem said it, but he said, if you all, I am whoever I say I am.
Right. If I wasn't, then why would I say I am?
So I always go by that. And they can find them like a best friend that trusts them, but sometimes it's hard to trust in anyone. But that's what makes me more spiritual, because I trust in God.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like, whoever you trust and whoever your higher power is, go to your higher power. Pray.
Yeah.
Pray.
Yeah.
Pray.
Yeah, come on, say it one more time for those in the back. All right,
because it's like,
absolutely.
Because a lot of times we gotta destroy the yoke.
Yeah.
You can't break things. You gotta destroy the yoke.
Yeah.
So you gotta pray, and prayer does work.
It definitely
makes
works.
A big difference. It might not come when you want it, but it makes a big difference, especially dealing with trauma.
Yep. Listen, I'm telling you, if we believed in prayer the way we believe in stress. It's the same idea. I'm telling you, and prayer saves lives. So what you trying to do here? I love that. And I love that you mentioned prayer, because I know sometimes in the LGBT community, it can feel like that's not a place that you can speak about God or you're welcome or loved. And even in that, especially if you're coming from a faith-based home, that's even more rejection. That's even more of me feeling like, oh, let me just go hit this bottle, or let me just go live in these streets, or let me go find somebody to receive me, because they don't know that their identity is still within God. So thank you for acknowledging that. Thank you. How can we get talking about our traumas as normal as talking about a Ravens game?
I think consistency. I've been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah.
And what I've learned in my travels, and even just being a part of such a program like the Adolescent Clubhouse, is consistency. A lot of our young people don't have consistency.
Oh, for sure.
People come in and out of their lives. And then that trust part, trust is important in a lot of different ways. Not just being able to say I'm going to do something, but actually doing it.
Yes.
So, in my travels and my experiences, just that level of communication, of just being able to have that trust factor, is the most important piece for me.
Yeah.
When I'm dealing with the adolescents, they want to be able to know that not only I'm going to say I have your back, I actually have your back. And I show up for you.
Yeah.
So That's my major component in it.
And that's so important to the child because they remember everything.
Absolutely. They will
You
not-
said
Yeah.
that you was going to bring
Right.
me a piece of candy on Thursday.
Absolutely.
It's Thursday night. You like, yo, here.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, you real.
Absolutely.
It's real. And that's huge. So trust. Okay, Ariel.
He nailed it.
Nailed it.
But trust goes a long
Yes, it
way.
does.
Yeah.
Plus, just like you said, a child said, "Well, you brought me." I deal with that with adults. I
Yeah.
deal with that with the community. I deal with that with and I deal with the straight community, the gay community, the puppies, the rats, the cats, anything.
Listen, everybody's safe here.
Everyone's safe
Over
here.
everything, right.
If you say that you're going to do something and they're dependent on you to do it, that's just like if I say, "Well, hey, I don't have it today. But when I come back out, I'm gonna have a whole bunch of food."
Yeah.
They're gonna be sitting there. They're gonna be looking at you because they're trusting you.
Mm-hmm.
Now that they sat there, and they say, "Well, Ariel said that she's coming back."
Name drop real quick.
And I deal with that
Yeah.
continuously every day.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm out and doing outreaching,
Right.
and I'm tabling like outside, like I'm going Pennsylvania Avenue,
Yeah.
South Baltimore,
Yeah.
I'm Dundalk, Park Heights, Westport, Cherry
Come
Hill.
on.
I'm in the trenches.
You sound like the next
it's like,
song.
so I'm in the trenches. So I'm like, okay, I'm meeting people where they are.
Yeah.
And I'm giving them all the resources that they need right then there on my van. And they're saying, well, Ariel, I need this, I need this. Just give me a day or two,
Yeah.
and we'll be back.
Yeah.
And when I come back, I got to come back with the whole armor because they depend on for me to put them in recovery, to get them this HIV test, to get them this gift card, to give them clothing, to give them food, to make sure that they're okay. Because it's the trust, like me trusting in you. So it's like, okay, well, if Ariel says she's gonna do it, and then once you show them,
you got them.
You got them.
Yeah.
And then you can move on to, well, how about you do this?
Yeah.
And how about you do this? Well, what happened? What triggers you?
Mm-hmm.
What are your triggers?
Mm-hmm.
Why, how come that you keep turning back to this? What can I do to help you?
Yeah. Yeah.
What can I do to help you? And they be like, well, maybe, my mom, and boom.
But
now you know it's
because you built the trust.
Because you built the trust, and I was touched.
Yeah.
Like, we can go deep into it from well. We can go deep.
Yeah.
And we can dig deep, but we're not going to do that too much today.
I mean, we're going to keep it cute today. But I think the importance is knowing that the willingness to go deep, there's no depth that we won't go.
Yeah.
And that's in both organizations, I'm sure. And I think that is extremely important because whether we are talking about our LGBTQ community, or we're talking about our youth, or we're talking about Black people or women, and whatever the thing is, the issues are real, and it's so easy to write them off, So when it's like, all right, when I'm connected with you, I know I'm gonna actually get somebody who cares, somebody who has practiced and studied this, knows what they're talking about, but also like it's gonna help see me to the other side of this. So, what would community look like if we talked more openly? Like, so say this is now achieved and now people talking freely. Like, let's just play an imaginary game.
So,
what's it look like?
Sure.
Come on.
What would community look like? I believe in a judgment zone.
Ooh.
The reason why I said it, because now everything is open, everything is out there. So now I put my problems on you. So now me and you are sitting and we're talking about this, but now we're open.
Yeah.
And that, like, a lot of times confidentiality means a lot to people.
Yes.
So it's now that it's open, it's saying, okay, but you judging me for how I was raised. You judging me for being put out my house at the age of 12, had to turn to prostitution at the age of 14.
Yeah.
I came back with all types of things going on with my body.
Yeah.
And now that you're judging me, so now that it's put out there, it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. So it could be the devil's advocate also.
Yeah.
Because now I'm sitting looking like, well, who can I trust?
That's so real.
Because everyone is looking at me now like, I know what I know
all my business.
all my business. So I'm very
It's
iffy about
tough.
that.
And I'll be honest with you. Like, my mom didn't fully understand everything that happened to me until I was an adult, and it came out in like a drunk conversation over family dinner or something like that. But she didn't understand it was the what happens in my house stays in my house energy. So there is that fear of, well, people will know my business. And what I can say as an adult is when I meet people, specifically men in relationships, you share something and then you get the beefing and now they bringing up stuff and throwing it in your face. So in a community where this is your whole job is to surface these wounds and to help people heal, how do you navigate that? Or how do you push a person past the fear of that judgment zone? And I don't know, whenever if you want to jump in, because it sounds like we
Yeah,
understand.
again, it goes back to some basic values and cores that I have. Being authentic.
Yeah.
Being being interconnected.
Yeah.
Again, trust.
Yeah.
The world that we live in itself. When we get to that particular space, allows for us to be able to process our emotions in a way that is reciprocal. Folks to say, this is how I'm feeling,
Yeah.
and then you can return that emotion.
Yeah.
So for me, again, it's just that balance, interconnectedness, being authentic, being transparent,
Yeah.
and then being able to share, share the good and the bad.
Yeah.
This is how you make me feel. This is how I felt the day before, and this is
Mhm.
how I responded. So again,
Yeah.
Ariel said a lot, and I ditto a lot of the stuff that she mentioned as well.
So, what realistic tips would you give to someone who's navigating that? That's like, I don't, I don't. I can't. I hear you, but like realistically, how I'm supposed to tell you something that I don't want you to know?
Right. Again, your journey is your journey.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, your journey is your journey, and how you process your journey is how you process it. However, you have to do the work. One of my biggest component is doing the work. Therapy for me has been a change in my whole perspective of life. And grief therapy was what allowed for me to be able to get to a certain place.
And a lot of people don't realize grief is not just losing a person.
It's not. It's
to death.
It's
like,
more than just losing a person.
Talk about grief real quick.
Well, grief in itself is not just death, like you mentioned. It can be a relationship.
Yes.
You can break up from your partner.
Your friends.
Your friends. Your friends are no longer as connected as you used to be. So grief comes in different stages.
Yeah. So
again, for me, and I like to speak from my experience more than anyone else's, because who can tell your story other than you?
Right.
For me, it was just grief. I lost a lot of people in a short period of time, and me even being in the field, having a psychology degree, it wasn't processing for me to say, hey, you need to speak to someone outside of your relationship, outside of your friendships. You need to speak to someone that can be extremely biased and give you some input on how these emotions are affecting you.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until then that I actually took the time. But even in that breakdown, I didn't even realize that it was happening.
Yeah.
So it took that breakdown to kind of tell me, you need to really speak to somebody.
Yeah.
And that was the best thing I ever did for my mental health. I'm gonna be completely honest. It allowed for me to be extremely vulnerable now with my peers, with relationships, parents, siblings. It allowed for me to just be very transparent in how I'm feeling and how you made me feel.
Yeah.
And then be able to share. So that's my biggest piece right now.
Do you feel like that experience kind of prepared you for the work that you do now?
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, I was in the midst. I've been doing this well over 20 years.
Oof.
And for me, it's just an ongoing process.
Yeah.
You're just doing the work because of the passion. I love what I do. I love working with young people. They say, find something you enjoy doing. You'll never feel like you're working a day in your life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
But you take on so much. Your personal life, the life of what you're doing and working, who you're working with, some of the things that you hear from some of the young people, the families, like it's a lot. So when you take that home, where do you put it?
Yeah.
And where do you put it? So that person allowed for me to put it somewhere.
I love that.
And
shout out to you for knowing you still need to be mentored down and mentored up. Like,
listen, it's been a journey.
Yeah.
It's been a journey, and I'm happy for the place that I'm in now.
Yeah.
Right. So I encourage a lot of my peers, a lot of my young folks, do the work.
Yeah.
Do the work. The work is important.
Yeah.
And that's that healing process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna ask you the same question. Any realistic tips? And think about your community specifically. Yeah. I'm shit. Maybe I'm ready. Maybe I'm not ready. But I'm scared. I'm nervous to tell my story. To call y'all. To call 988 to ask for help. Right. What advice?
Dealing with this community and any other community that's surrounded us, it's hard.
Yeah.
So me being who I am, find that sanctuary. Find that person.
Yeah.
Find that one that you can depend on and use them as a backbone. Like, as he said, take it from my own experience. I am the backbone to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So me being the backbone to a lot of people, I had to learn how to not take their baggage home. So with me and also mental, physical, spiritual,
Yes, all the health.
emotional, it builds.
Yeah.
And when you take on someone else's problems,
Mm-hmm.
you taking on everything. So you're taking it home, and Johnny is out there. I.e.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny is out there. Johnny is suffering from homelessness. Johnny don't have this. Johnny don't have this. So now you got to carry that home
Yeah.
because Johnny came to you.
Yeah.
I had to learn to differentiate
Yeah. Yeah.
his problems
Yeah.
and my problems.
Yes.
Because I go through my own problems at home.
Mhm,
I have
mhm.
family.
Mhm.
I have a husband.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
have this. I have that
Mhm,
going on. I
mhm.
have my own set of kids
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
had to take care of. So me putting it on myself, I had to learn how to be like, you know what?
Mhm.
Let me turn to God. Or you
Mhm,
know what?
mhm, mhm.
Who can I call on? Because
Yeah.
when you're the backbone, it's just like the grandmother's the backbone
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
family.
yeah.
So it's like
Who grandma
who
calling?
can she call on?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Grandma is suffering now, so who can she
Mhm.
call on
Mhm.
in the midnight hour?
Yeah.
Who can she call on? So a lot of times it's hard to really be like, oh, I'm going to, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But I just say find that sanctuary person, find
Yeah.
that person that you can really depend on,
Yeah.
and be like, okay, that listening ear,
Yes.
that
Yes.
listening ear that it won't travel because we hold the power of life and death on the tongue.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
So you got to learn that whatever you put into the atmosphere,
It's out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's out there.
it's out there,
Mhm.
and dealing with our lifestyle, the things that's going on in the world today.
Mhm. Mhm.
We won't say who, but the things
Mhm.
that's going on in the world
Mhm.
today,
Mhm.
and us
They will
suffering from
remain unnamed.
it will remain unnamed. It will remain unnamed, but find that person of resilience.
Yeah.
Find that person who's actually going to sit there and really talk to you and
Yeah.
let you know. I don't want nobody to give me sympathy. Give me the
Give me
hard.
the real.
Give me the hard knock.
Yeah.
Give it to me.
Yeah.
Give me the real deal, because if you
Yeah.
don't give me the real deal, I'm going to continue to do the sympathy thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna reach out. Yeah, girl.
Mhm.
I'm sitting here. Or yeah, bro. I'm sitting here. I don't got this going on. No, give me the real. Get up off your
Yeah.
rusty dusty. Get out,
Come on, Rusty Dusty.
get out and do what you need to
And
do.
we need that
And I'm sad
sometimes.
you do.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to be that sentimental heart,
Mhm.
but that rock in the hard place.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I had to learn to be that block and say, look, come over here. You gonna get up. You gonna do what you need to do. Black man, stand up. Black woman, stand up.
Yeah.
Stand 10 toes down.
Yeah.
Because we got this.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm in it with you.
Come on, I feel empowered.
We got this. We got this.
Yeah.
And then and we might say a little prayer, then you're gonna lay down, you're gonna rest.
Mhm.
Because you're gonna ask God to take over you and rest
Yeah,
on you,
yeah,
and lay
yeah,
on you
yeah.
and stretch you. And you
Mhm.
ask him to take the power away from you, because
Yeah.
the Bible does say there's no weapon formed against that will prosper. So we're gonna take that, we're gonna run with that.
Come on. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Good stuff.
gonna call myself. You said you. All right, thanks. No, that's so good, and you're so right. And thinking about all the conversations that y'all have had with peers, I'm sure you've probably had some people graduate from the program,
Oh,
maybe
yes,
work and be a part of it,
Yes,
all of
yes.
that. I'm sure there's been like excellent outcomes, but if you want to share, this is an optional question. Are there any conversations you wish you had, you wish you could have had? Maybe something happened too soon, you didn't get a chance to, or even if any, like for me, I shared my story about how like my aunt is no longer with us, so these are resources she didn't get to get. Is there anyone you wanted or couldn't have helped or wish you anything like that? And the reason why I'm asking this is because I want to get the listeners thinking like, okay, that part is me. I know that. Sometimes if we don't identify with all of it, we like, it's not me.
Right.
But it's like, is there anybody that you missed? Anything that,
Yeah, with me it is. It was a young lady, and she's no longer with us anymore.
Mhm.
Her cry out for help was silent.
Mm.
So she would come around, oh, I'm good. But her cry
Yeah.
out for help was silent. We knew that she was in deep substance
Yeah.
abuse, and we tried all that we can try.
Yeah.
But it's just, I just couldn't touch her.
Yeah.
And we got a call that she had OD'd.
Mm.
A little while ago, we got a call that she OD'd or whatever, and I felt kind of bad inside, because it was like that cry out for help. When she would come to, can I get this? And I gave her everything she needed. I felt like it was something else I could have did. I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
but it's something else I could have did if I could have just touched her and let her know we're here.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all you need is a touch.
Yeah.
And let them, but God works in mysterious
Yes, he
ways.
does.
So her passing on saved someone else's life.
Yeah, he don't waste nothing.
No. Her passing on saved someone else's
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what I didn't do for her, I'm doing for someone else. And that's just me.
And it's purpose driven. And like you say, he don't waste
You
nothing.
don't waste
So,
nothing.
thank you. Ooh, thank you for sharing. Now, what did you wanna?
I had a young man. Marcus, unfortunately, he committed suicide.
Mm,
And the irony in it all was we just assumed Marcus was in a better place when he started working with us at the clubhouse.
yeah.
We seen him kind of mature.
Mm-hmm.
We seen him start a career. We seen him even navigate to the Navy. And then he came home for that summer, and he came back to the clubhouse, and he showed us that he was doing well. He had his uniform on and
Mm,
everything, and then maybe less than a summer later,
mm,
he committed suicide.
my God.
So for me, it's more so of being able to be consistent with touching our young folks,
Yeah.
even when they transition out of
Yeah.
the program.
Yeah.
Some will call it retention.
Yeah.
I call it just following up with the love, right?
Mm. Following up with the love.
Following up with the
Ooh,
love, because again,
that's
when
good.
you're here in the midst of it, you get all the love.
Yeah.
I'm here. You can see me Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
You get the
Yeah.
love, the daps, the hugs, the congratulations. But then when you transition out of the program, it's a little bit, if not none of it,
Yeah.
because we don't see you as much anymore.
Yeah.
So even those phone calls or even a pull up, hey, where are you? I'm gonna pull up on you.
Mm-hmm.
Little dap, hug. Just wanted to say what's up. I think that's my biggest gripe in that process.
Yeah.
Not being able to just touch him
Yeah.
after his success.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh wow, that's so meaningful.
Silent cries.
Yeah, silent
Absolutely.
cries. I think sometimes we fail to realize how deeply rooted stuff is. So when a person starts to appear to be better,
Mm-hmm.
we don't rip like you got to rip that up from the root, and that
Absolutely.
takes a lot. So it could appear one way on the outside, but without this love, without this support, without this community, am I still able to navigate? And I think that's why 988 is so important in
Absolutely.
all these different avenues and spaces, so that we have options. If I am deployed overseas and I've graduated, for lack of better words, from your program, but I don't have you or access to
Right,
you,
right.
these little trinkets, these gems that you've given, they are what will sustain me, but will it keep me forever?
Right.
And I think that that's something to really be considered, that
absolutely.
post
Absolutely.
services. Wow, thank you for that. If you think about, or if someone is at a point where they're thinking about, or they're feeling like alone, or they're like maybe on the fence and they only could hear it from you. Now, I know we talked about quite a few different things, but I want to give you your moment to speak directly to them. So you'll look directly into the camera and just kind of, what would you want them to hear from you? And you can take your turns.
Well, for me, I understand.
Yeah.
Not only do I understand, I can relate. I've been through the process. I know the journey. And it gets better. It gets better with the work. That's one of my mantras these days. Do the work. The healing process is like no other, and taking the time to actually work on healing has been the most successful part of my life.
Yeah.
And again, I've had a lot of success. My son, my
Yeah.
family, just the people in my life in general. But working on self has been the greatest accomplishment that I've mastered, and still mastering. As
Yeah.
it's an ongoing process. So again, if it was for me to speak to my inner self, it would be to just consistently be on that journey to be a
Yeah.
better version of yourself, no matter what that may look like.
Yes, I love that you said journey. It is not an overnight
It's
change.
not an overnight process.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you got to do the work.
You gotta do the work.
That's I should create a T-shirt. Do
You
the work.
should create a
You gotta do the
T-shirt.
work. You got to do the work.
You
have to
gonna double down on like give us your word, all right, when it's your turn. But that's so good, Neville. Thank you. You definitely got to do the work, because you can have all the resources in the world, but if you're not willing to take the step.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, Ariel, look into that camera. I think that's your camera, and speak your heart out.
Me, for people who want to know anything, I would rather for you to just come to me as you are.
Mm-hmm.
Let you know that I love you
Mm-hmm.
unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
and it's always a second chance. It's never too late to get things right. It's never too late to want to go get your diploma, to want to get your education. It's never too late to go get a job. It's never too late to get right with God. It's never too late to want to just get your health back in order. Just come to me and just say, Ariel, I just want to talk.
Yeah.
And just say, Ariel, could you just hear me out? A lot of
Yeah.
times you don't want me to reply. You just want me to listen.
Yeah.
You want me to be that listening ear.
Mhm.
Let you know that I am here. Let you know that I do care. Let you know that you're not in this alone. And let you know that fear is something that we're going to overcome because I am here.
Absolutely.
Come
Good
on.
stuff.
It was the both of y'all starting with the I. I understand. I am here. That is what so many of us need to hear, whether we know we in crisis or not, whether we know, because a lot of times we don't even know till we crash out.
Absolutely.
And then we like, I probably should have talked to somebody. But yeah, so I just think that it is it's really important for the person to be able to see them, even if it is just on the phone.
Yep.
Because that can get them in the space. And sometimes it does start with that call. So when people call 988, for one, it is a free confidential helpline. Like anyone can call if you need immediate or emotional support. It's not just for crisis. I'm learning this today. Like you can call about relationship issues. I found that out because that's a crisis.
Yes.
I've been through some crises, some hard breakups, and I ain't had nobody that would. My friends was over it. They was tired of hearing about it.
Right.
So I'm gonna keep saying that in case somebody needs somebody. 988. Have you seen 988 help? Do you have any firsthand experiences of maybe someone who might have called and maybe they connected them to you or connected them to another resource and it actually had like positive outcomes?
Personally, no, I haven't yet.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell people to start using it.
Oh, for sure.
To use 988 if you're going through anything.
Yeah.
Use 988 because 988 is a great access, is a great resource for you to talk to. Just talk. Talk about your relationship. Talk about domestic violence. Talk about pregnancy.
Yeah.
You can talk about anything that, like, you can talk about anything confidential. You talk to these people, and then if you're not feeling really comfortable with them, tell them, look, refer me to Ariel. They got my number. They'll call me.
And they will. And they will. And I love that. And 988 is easy. It's easy to remember. So maybe you don't remember Baltimore Safe Haven, but you can remember that and just be like, connect me with the people that you said with. And I love that they can do that. So that's excellent. What about you, Neville?
Yeah, likewise. I've had a young person use the hotline before.
Okay.
Just to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
Going through some relationship stuff. And yes, definitely.
I think that's really good to know, especially for young people. And it's free. The free and the confidential, because everything that's free ain't confidential.
Absolutely.
For one, they giving your information to somebody.
Right.
And then on top of that, it's always available. Whereas, again, we mentioned where other people might be tired of hearing about this particular crisis, or maybe they downplaying it, or maybe you have shame and you don't want to tell anybody, or maybe it's 4:00 in the morning, like you said, that midnight hour, and who's up? All right, well, I'm gonna connect you with them, and then they can connect you, with more resources like you two, and I'm just thankful. I've learned so much. So this is like a lot of information for me. But I'm so thankful to have been able to get this information. I'm familiar with Baltimore Safe Haven, but just the scope of it. Thank you for opening it up. And Adolescent Clubhouse. Even with that, I work with you. I teach children. I have kids. I'm a mentor. I'm a summer camp coach. All the things, all the kids. I had a daycare for 8 years. Like I love the babies. And so knowing that this exists, for one, I'm ready to plug everybody that I know, not just for the company, but for the kids.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's for the kids. Like, so I'm just honored to have met you. Are there any final thoughts that you might want to share?
Do the work.
Do the work. We need that on a t-shirt.
Do the work.
Love yourself.
Yeah. Love yourself.
And let yourself know you can heal.
Yeah.
You can be delivered.
Yeah.
And you will shine one day.
Yes. And the last thing I'll say, because you said love yourself, but earlier you said I love you. And so even if you can't love yourself, you've already been loved. Like you are, Ariel loves you. So I'm going to double down on her love, and I love you as well. Thank you both so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.